Hi, everyone. It is noon here in New York. I'm Alicia Menendez. Welcome to On the Line. We begin with breaking news. Luigi Mangione just pleaded guilty to federal stalking charges, a move that upends plans for a separate state murder trial scheduled to begin next month in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Thompson's family was inside the courtroom for that moment when Mangione confessed to the shooting. His sentencing is now scheduled for December 18th. Joining us now, MS Now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin. She was inside court for the hearing and just got to a camera moments ago. And here with me in studio, former Manhattan Assistant U.S. Attorney and MS Now legal analyst Catherine Christian. Lisa, let's begin with you. What did you hear and see in that courtroom?
Oh, Alicia, I saw some really remarkable things over the last hour with Luigi Mangione pleading guilty to the two remaining charges in his federal indictment. As you just mentioned, those are both stalking charges, and specifically stalking with the intent to kill or severely bodily injure Brian Thompson, who ultimately he says he shot. The most interesting part of today, in addition to the guilty plea itself, is, of course, the part of the hearing where Judge Margaret Garnett asked Luigi Mangione to tell everyone assembled, especially her, what he did that makes him believe that he is in fact guilty of those two crimes. And in a very plain-spoken way, Luigi Mangione took her through the following events. I'm going to try and recapture for you and our viewers what he said. He said that after years of suffering the pain from a broken back and difficulty navigating the healthcare system.
Real quickly, hold on. Yeah. We're going to listen in to what's happening outside the courtroom.
Friedman Agnifilo, and I represent Luigi Mangione. Today is a solemn and significant day. With today's guilty plea, Mr. Mangione has accepted full responsibility for the death of Brian Thompson, arising from the events of December 4th, 2024, outside of the United Healthcare Investor Conference here in Midtown Manhattan. It was a single tragic event, yet he's being prosecuted twice for the same conduct. As Luigi explained in court today, he endured years of severe, debilitating pain following a broken back while struggling to navigate our healthcare and health insurance systems. Like the thousands of people who have reached out since this tragedy to share their own experiences, he believed that the system had failed him and destroyed his life. Despite this being a single isolated event, Mr. Mangione has been unfairly treated since the outset in every way and has successfully fought off terrorism charges and the death penalty, while also fighting at the same time two simultaneous prosecutions in two jurisdictions who are trying to punish him twice for the exact conduct. He's been treated differently from every other defendant charged with this offense in New York. However, thankfully, New York law does not allow this. New York law does not permit a person to be prosecuted and punished twice for the exact same crime under a statute that governs successive prosecutions. It's also known as the double jeopardy law. Today's guilty plea triggers this statute, and we just filed our motion in state court explaining why the state charges must be dismissed under New York's double jeopardy protections. We will not be taking any other questions. Thank you so much for coming.
We're going to get to that question of double jeopardy in a second. But Lisa Rubin, I want to go back to you, and I want you to take us to what unfolded inside the courtroom, and then we will unpack what all of this means moving forward.
Absolutely. So, Alicia, before Karen Agnifilo began to speak to cameras, I was explaining some of what she just said, that Luigi Mangione told the courtroom that because he had suffered years with a broken back and had difficulty navigating the healthcare system, and he had learned of so many others with similar experiences, that when he learned that United Healthcare would be holding a conference in December of 2024, he researched that event. And he said that it made him angry that United Healthcare had a stated mission online to make healthcare more accessible for everyone. In November of 2024, he says he traveled from outside the state to Manhattan. And then he did something that we've never heard before, that he posed as an investor online, saying that he was with a fund that had more than $50 billion of assets under management management in order to obtain more information about the conference, the location of which was not publicly disclosed. He said he got an immediate response within an hour. He then used, by his own admission, a 3D printer to make part of a gun. He came with an intent to shoot Brian Thompson. He says he has a silencer with him. He then came to Manhattan where the investor conference was being held. He said he shot him and he died. I knew, Luigi Mangione said, that he would be in fear of death or bodily injury, and I did so, shooting him with the knowledge that what I was doing was illegal. And with that, Luigi Mangione concluded his comments after some additional procedure to make sure that his guilty plea was knowing and voluntary and competent. Judge Margaret Garnett accepted that guilty plea. Alicia, the question of whether Luigi Mangione's state trial will now be mooted was something that we didn't get into inside that federal courtroom. But as you just heard from Karen Agnifilo, it's the belief of his defense team that Luigi Mangione now cannot be tried in the state system. That's something I expect that we'll hear some real pushback on from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And the reason is because Luigi Mangione is facing charges in the state trial having to do solely with his possession of a weapon. Those aren't elements of the crimes with which he was charged in federal court, to which he just pled guilty. The reason I know that is because Dominic Gentile, the lead prosecutor for the federal government, stood up and was asked to recite the elements of both of the crimes to which he pled guilty today. Neither one of them have anything to do with possession of a weapon, much less possession of a weapon in violation of the law. So I'll be very curious to get my hands on that motion that Karen Agnifilo was just talking about, to see whether indeed Luigi Mangione has a good chance of escaping trial. That trial is scheduled to begin on September 8th, just down the street at 100 Center Street. Right now, I'm standing in front of 40 Foley Square, the federal courthouse here.
Lisa,
a short
I'm
distance
going to interrupt
between
you
them, but that short distance covers a lot. Go ahead.
Lisa, I think we're preparing to hear more remarks. Let's stop and take a listen.
Good afternoon. I'm Jamie McDonald, United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. At 6:45 on a December morning, Luigi Mangione stalked and murdered Brian Thompson in cold blood on a public sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan. Just a few moments ago, Mangione pled guilty to his heinous act. This was not a spontaneous act of violence. It was deliberate, calculated, and premeditated. In the days leading up to the murder, the defendant very carefully prepared for the attack. He tracked Mr. Thompson's whereabouts, conducted surveillance along the route he knew Mr. Thompson would take, and positioned himself to carry out the plan. Then, on a sidewalk on West 54th Street, the defendant murdered Mr. Thompson, shooting him from behind with a 9mm handgun equipped with a silencer. He shot Thompson twice at close range. The second shot came as Mr. Thompson turned and faced the defendant. The defendant did this as everyday New Yorkers walked nearby, and while the rest of the city woke up to start their day. Mangione then ran away, leaving Mr. Thompson to die. The defendant committed this murder in an attempt to draw public attention to his dislike of certain businesses. But we live in a civilized society governed by the rule of law. We debate, we disagree, we protest. We do not commit murder. No grievance, political belief, or ideological cause can ever justify murder. There can be no celebrity in assassination. Any person who celebrates, encourages, or excuses actions like these is fundamentally wrong. Mangione attempted to send a public message through violence, but the message that emerges today is very different. Violence is not a legitimate instrument to promote any political or social message. And those who resort to violence in an effort to advance their beliefs will be prosecuted, convicted, and put in jail. Today, the Southern District of New York, together with our law enforcement partners, writes the final chapter of Mangione's federal prosecution. Now, He stands convicted in federal court and faces life in prison. One other point that's important to note. While the defendant pled guilty, our office does not have a plea agreement with him. Instead, he pled open, which means he pled guilty to all pending counts in the indictment. There are no accommodations or concessions, and we are free to seek the maximum penalty under the law. I'd like to thank the dedicated prosecutors of our office's Violent Organizations and Crime Unit, who are beside me, for their remarkable efforts to bring this case. I would also like to thank the NYPD and the FBI, whose tireless and incredibly sophisticated investigative efforts made this conviction possible. Finally, I want to express on behalf of all of us here our deepest sympathy and compassion for the many family members and friends of Brian Thompson. Mr. Thompson's family and many of his friends were in court for the guilty plea today. I know they will have an opportunity to be heard at sentencing. We all stand in awe of their love for their family and for their friend, and their unwavering commitment to seeing justice done in this case. We hope they can take some solace in the fact that from the beginning, we have brought the full force of the federal government to bear in this case. In this prosecution, we have consistently pursued the maximum penalties under the law as necessary and just punishment for these crimes. The result achieved today now allows our office to seek the maximum penalty allowed, life imprisonment, which, as I've conveyed to Mr. Thompson's family, is what we intend to seek. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Tisch.
Good afternoon. Thank you, U.S. Attorney McDonald, and thank you to the prosecutors and the federal law enforcement partners who have worked alongside the New York City Police Department throughout this case. Today, Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty in connection with the murder of Brian Thompson on a Midtown Manhattan sidewalk in December of 2024. This is an important moment of accountability, and my thoughts remain first and foremost with Mr. Thompson's family and everyone who knew and loved him. But I also want to take a few minutes today to recognize the extraordinary police work that brought us here. From the moment that Mr. Thompson was assassinated on the morning of December 4th, the NYPD mobilized an enormous investigative effort. Our detectives combed through thousands of hours of surveillance video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and worked through an extraordinary volume of forensic and digital evidence. They used some of the most sophisticated technology available to law enforcement, and they paired it with the kind of painstaking, old-fashioned detective work that has defined the New York City Police Department for generations, interviewing witnesses, canvassing neighborhoods, retracing the suspects' movements, and pursuing every viable lead. Most importantly, they developed a clear image of the man we were looking for and got that image out to the public and to law enforcement agencies across this country 5 days after the murder. That work paid off in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where an alert member of the public recognized Mangione and local police took him into custody. That was not simply a lucky break. It was the culmination of 5 days of relentless investigative work that gave the public the information it needed to recognize the suspect and gave our law enforcement partners what they needed to act. This case began with the worst kind of violence on our streets. It was answered by the very best of the New York City Police Department. To every member of the NYPD who played a role in this investigation, you should be enormously proud for bringing us to this day. And to those who idolize Luigi Mangione, I say this: violence is not a cause, murder is not a message, and a killer is certainly not a hero. Now I'd like to introduce the FBI's Assistant Director in charge for the New York Field Office, Jim Barnacle.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good day. My name is James Barnacle. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI New York Field Office. I want to begin by addressing the family, friends, and colleagues of Brian Thompson. We had the chance to sit down with the family this morning. And they are still grieving, and they have been grieving for almost 2 years as Brian was taken away in the most heinous way possible. They lost a son, a brother, a husband, and a father, and a friend to many colleagues and other people. The family deserves closure, the clarity, and the assurance that every step taken throughout our investigation, the New York City Police Department's investigation, the Altoona Police Department's investigation, and the U.S. Attorney's Office prosecution reflected the gravity of the situation and the importance of Brian's life. While today's plea doesn't replace the void he left behind, I hope it offers a glimmer of the closure that the Thompson family and friends deserve. This tragedy shocked the nation and left a deep impact on everyone it touched. Violence driven by hostility toward opportunity and success stands in sharp contrast to the values true Americans hold dear. But rest assured, this FBI and our partners never stopped working to bring this killer to justice. While a plea was entered today, we know the crime has not been erased. Thank you to the FBI's Violent Crime Task Force, our largest partner on that task force, the New York City Police Department, the New York State Police Department. Thank you to the prosecutors and the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, led by Jamie McDonald. Thank you. And I want to thank the officers and detectives of the New York City Police Department, led by Commissioner Tisch, for your agency's unwavering pursuit of truth and accountability. Thank you, Commissioner. I'd also like to thank the Altoona Police Department in Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, who helped facilitate the extradition to New York. We're incredibly grateful to our partners, and we wish the Thompson family comfort and strength as the legal process continues. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you. Thank you all.